Okay, I can see a lot of y'all are joining in for today's session. So whoever joins in, please just let me know in the comment live chat. Um, just a little bit intro about yourself so that we can be more interactive. I'm just going to wait a few more minutes before we start today's session. I can see a few of y'all are joining in. As in, when you join, please send in a text message on the live chat with a little bit introduction of yourself so that I get to know and we get to know each other better. I'm going to wait a few more minutes before we start today's session. In a minute or so, we'll begin. Okay, so it's 5:05, and we'll start today's session. I hope you all are having a great evening, and you all are keeping safe wherever you are. So, before we begin today's session, if you don't know me and it's the first time that you're seeing me here, my name is Dasha, and I'm a psychology graduate, and I'm also a member of the British Psychological Society. I've been in the psychology field for about 6 years. And what else? I am not a practicing therapist so far, but I hope in the near future I'll be able to do so. And okay, so the main objective of the sessions that I'm holding here for live, which was began yesterday around the same time, that is 5 p.m. Dubai time, because I currently live in Dubai, and the main agenda of the session is to bring about maximum awareness on mental illnesses. So, we celebrate the Mental Illness Awareness Week from October 4th to the October 10th in the United States. Hi, Naveen. I can see so many people are joining in. As in, when you join, please send in a text so that I know you are here, and a little intro of who you are, or so we get to know each other a little better. Yeah, so back to again the main objective of today's and the coming sessions, and the session I held yesterday was to communicate maximum awareness on mental illnesses and in the topic of mental health. Um, as psychologists and as professionals working in the field, it is our responsibility and our role to promote maximum awareness on the topic to the community around us and the society that we live in. Well, yesterday's session is up on YouTube, and the session was on stigma and stereotypes prevalent in the topic of mental health and mental illnesses. So we covered a session about how there's a lot of labeling and how when somebody talks about mental illnesses, or when someone says that, what, I'm going through something, we lack a space of safe environment or a safe setup, so which prevents people from opening up. And the main sources for such stereotypes is purely lack of awareness and psychoeducation in the field. While before we start the session, I can see a few people are still joining in. As in, when you join, please send in a message on the live chat if possible to introduce yourself a little bit. Well, after yesterday's session, I got a few feedback on. Yes, yesterday we did face a little interruption with the connection, but today I'm well and good, and I'm a more little prepared to face the technical issues and glitches. Well, so if you haven't watched the previous one, it is already uploaded on YouTube, and you can definitely get a look either after the session or as and when time permits. And the objective of today's session is to cover on the topic of, as the poster is on Googly Googly influence on mental health. So Googly Googly was my way of putting up Google, and we are going to. So I have a list of objectives for today's session. The first and foremost, I have received. I'm so glad to have received feedback and a detailed email by somebody who sat on yesterday's session, and the person has taken their time and effort to ask me a lot of questions, and I hope I will cover them today, mostly in today's session. Otherwise, it will be covered over the sessions that I've been planning for the week. So anyway, it's going to be covered in one of the days, and if I still don't, you can always email me, and I'm going to leave my email on the description box. So yes, so I'll be answering a few questions. I'm going to leave the live chat open. You can post questions as and whenever you feel, and whenever something is not clear, so that I can communicate better. And that's the first thing. And speaking of which, other than the objectives are going to be about how you will be able to recognize and spot that you are in need of help in mental terms, like how do you recognize that you are not keeping well mentally, what should you be looking for, and the other topic that I plan to cover in the other half is what are the influences we get from social media on our mental health. So these are two topics that I thought um, I will cover. So it's nice to see Naveen, who is a 12th graduate and who's interested in pursuing psychology. So Naveen has contacted me in person, otherwise itself on psychology. So I hope my session will be somewhere helpful for you and to all the other people who are watching me out there. And if everybody else who's feeling free to introduce themselves, please use the live chat. Okay. Are we good? Can we start? Can I get a response on the live chat, please? So even I'm using the live and YouTube for just a few months now, and I'm not a great expert. But yes, so I can see an yes, and I'm going to start. Okay, before I start, I'd like to make myself clear that if at any point during the session, or at any point anything triggers you, I will highly recommend you all to take up professional advice or professional counseling. And these sessions are only in the purpose of communicating and creating better awareness about psychological issues and mental health, and in the topic of psychology. But other than that, when you face something, or if at any point anything triggers out, which I hope I don't, but in case if it happens, I will recommend you to either communicate with me on my email ID, which I'll post below at the description box after the session is being uploaded, or it's already there on my community tab. So you can email me. Otherwise, seek a professional help, either by consulting a psychologist at whichever country that you are part of, and make sure that you seek and take the necessary help as and when things occur. So that's it. So I'll start. I've seen the two yes on the live chat. Okay, so before I start, how many? Okay, so yes, the first thing that I would like to clear. So, how many of y'all know the proper difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? So, these are two different terms that are commonly used without the awareness of what these terms mean. Are you all aware? Can you please use the live chat so that I know, or whatever just let me know on the live chat before I start explaining. The question again is, do you know what the term psychologist and a psychiatrist means? I'm waiting for a response. Okay, so I don't think there is enough awareness, so I'll make it clear and give out a better explanation. So, yeah, okay, yes, I know that. Okay, so Praveen has answered no, and Naveen has said, I believe a psychiatrist mainly uses psychedelic drugs to treat, whereas a psychologist uses therapy. Yes, it is partially true. Reena says, no, I don't. Okay, so, well, the first of all, the degrees that a psychiatrist and a psychologist takes are different. So in psychology, when you to become a psychologist, each country that you live in has a different rules. They have different rules for license. They have different rules for practice. So, but the basics mostly are you take a bachelor's, mostly in science. In some countries, it's in arts. The dilemma of psychology is that it is neither truly defined as a science nor as an art subject. But I believe it is both. It's a mix of both, because the pride of the subject is that it has scientific basis, which is logical, which explains behavior, which explains things that we cannot otherwise say. But the subject also has abstract concepts which we cannot truly define in words or statements. So yes, it is sometimes considered as science. So degrees vary, whichever college that you look at, or some universities even provide in science and arts, and it differs. So yes, so it is considered in humanities and science. So depending on the country and the place, the license procedure mainly varies. So you get a bachelor's based on what the university offers, and then you take up. So again, based on the country, the years of the course also differs. So in some places it is 3 years, in some places it is 4 years. After you complete your bachelor's, you take up a master's course, and the master's course is basically that you become the master of the subject. So psychology as a field has different options and different career choices. No psychologist is a specialist of all, so you basically specialize in your specific field. Okay, so you get to choose from an array of options, you get to choose which one do you want to take up. That basically happens to you after knowing the subject a little, after you familiarize it, because a lot of what is said and what is seen is not the same thing as when you work on it. So usually it is recommended that people take up a lot of internships in their bachelor's, and and you get to know a field experience, to know the subject better, and then you take up a master's course. Masters again depends on the country that you take up in. So some countries have it for a year, some countries have it for 2 years. Some courses are even offered on the differences of university with a PhD degree. Some other countries offer a PhD and an MPhil separately. So, based on the country that you live in, all of this differs. So, to know a better and to get a grab a good idea, you'll have to do a good research on the country that you choose to do your degree and where you want to work, since it differs between everywhere. And when you keep moving around it becomes even more restrictive, because things you do in some other place might not be a good, or it might not be accepted in other countries, because degrees of psychology mostly have to be recognized and be accepted by certain universities. Okay, so there are associations, there are psychological associations. So to name a few, there is one in America that is known as the APA, American Psychological Association, while in UK it is a British Psychological Association, pardon me, and in India it is Indian Psychological Association. So all of these associations are different, and it credits different courses. So to achieve a degree that is credited will give you a better standing while you're looking for job. So, and otherwise, to get your licenses it might differ, and rules and regulations keep changing, and it again depends on which field you choose in psychology itself. Now this is about psychology. Now when you take a psychiatrist, now the work a psychologist does is usually therapy. Now, like I said, since there are an array of field of choices in psychology, so to name a few, hi Shweta, I'm so glad to see you. So to name a few subjects in psychology, there is school psychology, forensics, educational, health, military, clinical, industrial, organizational, special ed. So there are these are some of the choices that I can name a few if you ask me for the moment. But if you Google around, you'll see a lot of options, and even in each what do you say, the general category. So if in forensic also we have different specializations, in clinical also, in each of these there are different specializations under each broad category. Okay, so what you want to do depends on your understanding. Where do you want to work? Where do you want to see yourself in a few years? What are your aims? What is the motivation and inspiration that you want to do? And why are you doing the course? All of these constitute and stands as a reason what you want to choose in psychology itself. So mainly each job role differs. So, but I can clearly for a fact state that psychologists do not involve in prescribing medicines. Okay, so we do not describe or prescribe, use a prescription to lay out medicines or any kind of drugs to name. Okay. Now the other difference of a psychiatrist. Now, these two terms, psychologist and psychiatrist, very commonly are used interchangeably without the proper knowledge of what these mean. While a psychiatrist is a doctor means he or she goes through MBBS, are the doctor course that they are generally supposed to take, and after their MBBS, they take up their MD, that is their masters. So if they were choosing to become a cardiologist, they would take cardiology. But in their MD, they have taken psychiatry, which makes them with practice of 2 years and further work experience, and depending on each country's licensing process, they become a psychiatrist. So what a psychiatrist will do is they are given the experience and knowledge like every other doctor that we have to prescribe medicines. Okay, so when you go to a psychiatrist, if you are looking into talking and somebody to listen to, a psychiatrist might not be able to serve this purpose. So, if you're looking into therapy, you're looking for a long term talking space, a free environment, and all of this. I will suggest, I'm not saying that psychiatrists will not do this, but their main job role is to prescribe medicines, while a psychologist's main job role is never to prescribe medicines and to consult patients on a regular basis and have a proper therapeutic plan. Okay, so this is the main difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. Now, if you ask me, should I meet a psychiatrist or should I meet a psychologist? I will say we in mental health and in the field of mental health, what is believed in today's trend is that you will have to meet both because the model that we practice right now is biopsychosocial. So there's biological basis to your behavior, there is psychological basis to your behavior, there is also social basis to your behavior. So you cannot exclude any one part and say you should only be doing this. It comes as a whole, and many people today consult both together because you need to get uh, influences. I mean, you need to get treatment for your biological as well as your psychosocial um, treatment. Yeah, so all of this is together needed, which is why if you ask me, should I consult this or should I consult that, you will have to consult both, in my opinion, because correcting biology, we cannot exclude biology and say it's only psychosocial. So that is what is also make psychology scientific, because we have a strong biology which supports that yes, these chemicals are lower when it comes into things like this. Yes, these chemicals don't work. Yes, your brain has a functioning impairment. So things like that is existing, and which also makes mental health a scientific and a humanistic approach. Okay, so that is the main difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. If there's any question, please ask me on the live chat. I'm going to wait for a minute so that anybody watching this can post a question and I can answer on the spot itself. So this actually was a question sent to me. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to name the person, so I'm not going to. But yes, this question was posed, and I thought, yes, this was a better platform to clear the query. And yes, the person has also sent me so many questions, and I hopefully will try to cover them mostly today. If not, over the sessions, if it's connected to different sessions that I'm covering, I'll connect it as and when the topic arises. Okay, so I cannot see any questions, so I'm going to continue with the objective of the topic that we have today. That is Googly Googly, influence on mental illnesses. So, what I wanted to portray in this tagline was, um, okay, so there's an influence of social media in our today's lifestyle. That is also an area where I see lot of mental health awareness going on, and a lot of people are scrolling through their phones, and you'll see posts saying about mental health and things like that. How many of us, anybody watching in here, can say that they use the terms like I am depressed. I'm a little BPD. That is, I'm a little bipolar disordered. Uh, how many of us consequently engage in the habit of using such terms? If you do, please. I myself used to do that. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. So if you all can be a little free to express, use the live chat and let me know if we all have seen the practice of engaging in the use of such terms, or using words when you're just a little moody and you're just feeling a little low. Do you try to use such words to describe your mood or anything like that? If you have seen someone else use it, if you have seen the media portray it, anything. Yes. Okay, Naveen, can you tell me a little bit more? Like, where have you seen it? Or do you use it? Or what is it the media portraying, or anything in specific? I hope you all get to interact a little bit more on the live chat. I'm consequently looking at it. Okay, so I haven't, but I've seen people use the term depression freely. Yes, so that is exactly what I wanted to talk about. That brings me to the topic of today. That is, we use such terms with so much of liberty. When you feel a little moody, when you feel a little sad, when you just go stressed, when you just feel physically, mentally exhausted, we take the liberty to use words like depressed. I've also seen personally see people using the word I'm a little BPD. So BPD is for people who don't know, it's a bipolar disorder. Okay. Okay, Naveen, I can see that you've said I use it from time to time and have seen my friends use it. Okay. I'll get back to that. To back again to what I was saying, we use these terms just when something hits a little. The fact is, these words, these are actual diagnoses that we do after a rigorous, inquiry. There's a process in which a psychologist and a psychiatrist comes to a psychological diagnosis. So, diagnosis is a very systematic process. You ask the patient so many things to come into such a conclusion. So many a times, with the awareness that we are creating, what we have also as a negative influence, what we have created. Okay, Shweta has replied. I just use the term feeling low because I feel depression. Depression is a much bigger issue which I haven't gone through. Yes. Okay. So I appreciate the fact that you're not using such words. So yes, a psychologist and a psychiatrist, people working in mental health, really take the time and knowledge and their expertise and their experience to come up to such diagnosis. But I have seen people using these words very freely. And before a few years ago, I also used to use the words because these words seemed new to me and they seemed like a fancy word to use. And what I've gained over the years is an understanding that these words are actual diagnosis. So these are actual conditions, or these are actual issues that are larger than our feeling of moody. Okay, So when life pulls us down, we use the word depression. But depression is a psychological issue, which is also a diagnosis, which is also a disorder. And the, it's not a one time thing. It's not like you feel depressed today and tomorrow you're okay. Depression as a disorder is a long term disorder, and it carries a lot of effect on our psychological, on our social, on our physical, and on any other aspect that I can think of. It affects us too much. And these terms are used because we don't have the awareness of what really depression is. What really do people go through when they are depressed? Do they just lie on the bed? Do they just feel, okay, you know what, I'm done for the day? Do they just is it just about feeling a little low? No, it is not. So there is genetical, biological reasons and justifications of depression. There are biological things that you see when a person goes through depression, while there's also psychological effects that people in depression go through. There's also social effects that people in depression go through. So if you're just feeling it for a day, then it's just that you're feeling moody. So I hope, I wish people more or less, at least after the session, don't use such words, because what we're doing is we are demeaning the value that people in depression go through. We use it commonly that we don't realize how much impact that diagnosis or the person who is going through it might be feeling. So the lack of awareness that we have should not be the reason why someone's value of going through something should be measured, right? So by making it a use that is so common, what we're doing is we're making it a fact that, you know what, even I have it, even I have it. We're doing that without an unknown unknown awareness of what we're saying. When we use things like I am a little BPD. So BPD is bipolar disorder, and bipolar disorder is a disorder which is very hard to survive. The person feels too extreme. Yes, that is very true. So bipolar disorder is two extremes of moods. So you'll feel the extremes of opposites. That is, you'll either feel too elevated in your moods, or you'll feel either too low in your moods. So by people who go through the actual diagnosis of bipolar go through so much because they cannot function effectively in all the different sectors of life, that can be physical, social, psychological. And they tend to depend on people for too much. Now the other person or the people around them might be feeling, why is he or she behaving like this? It is nothing to be be bothered about so much, because everybody's saying I'm a little BPD. What is the huge deal? When you have two moods going over, let's not get into the use of such phrases when we don't know what the words mean in real terms, because these are actual diagnoses that people use in professional health. And the reason why these diagnoses exist is to provide effective treatment. It's very simple, excuse me. It's very simple. We need a proper lane of pathway to reach a treatment and make sure that person is functioning effectively. At least, if not effectively or at the best, they function as much as they can. Yeah. So we want to make everybody's lives easier and better to breathe. Um, so when we unknowingly we create consequences by using such terms in our lack of awareness. So using such statements which are actual diagnosis, is not a good way. We can always replace our words of instead of I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling like Shweta mentioned it on the chat. I'm feeling a little low, or I'm just not feeling well today. Things like this can be a better way of expression than using a proper psychological term or a mental health term. Because, like I said again, the meaning, the value we should be giving, and the respect that person should be having is what we are demeaning in the process. So, this is one part I wanted to cover. Is there anything else anybody wants to add, or any opinions on this or thoughts? Please use the live chat and let me know. I know yesterday's session was a little too much about me talking, and I did not ask anybody else. But yesterday we faced a little connection issues. Today, hopefully, we are good. If anybody has any thoughts on this, please connect with me on the live chat. Is there any questions that you would like to ask me on the topic? Is something not clear? Or is there something else you would like me to talk about? Anything? Please post it on the live chat. I'm just going to wait for a minute and then I'll continue. And you can always do that over the session whenever I'm talking. I'm just going to get back to it. Okay. I wanted to know what I can do to help someone who is going through depression. Okay. I really like this question because many a times the other thing that commonly, I don't know how many of you all have seen, when someone says I'm having a psychological problem, or I think I'm not feeling very good, we say time will heal. We'll say, you know what, you're going to get better. We use very casual statements to just talk to them, and you don't really know what to do when somebody is going through such statements. Well, to that, I will take up tomorrow a detailed session on what should you be doing when someone is having a mental health issue. How should you be reacting? What are the steps you should be taking to help them out? And what can you do as a person who knows that someone else is going through? Because I think a detailed framework to tell people what to do, I will not be able to cover it today. So I will do a detailed session tomorrow on this, and I hope Shweta, you can catch up tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. And again, if you have any questions and if something's not clear, we'll talk about it. Right? So that is what our session is going to be tomorrow about. What should you be doing about when you know someone's going through something? Yeah. Okay. So continuing back to the topic. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, how often have you checked what disorder you might be going through, or how often have you clicked on these ad pop-ups that come on Facebook and on our different browsers about, check this is your personality, check what mood you might be having, what I don't know. There are so many weird. Yes, looking forward. Yes, I'll be looking forward to seeing you too. So, how many times have we all checked our personality types and our moods, and what are our this thing about mental health, and what personality do we fall on? How many times do we rely on googling symptoms to see if if something is wrong, and what kind of things might be I going through? Have you done it, or have you not done it? So I used to do it on checking on my physical symptoms. So I used to Google, even if I have a very small thing, I'll check on Google, what is this? So once I had a thing on my eye, and I started, I have done it, yes. We all have unknowingly, or we all just don't want to accept, but yes, we all do at to sometimes get curious to know what is that we're going through. So I had this thing on my eye, and I went and checked on Google. I was like, oh, this is the diagnosis that I'm going to have if I go to a physician. And I was like, okay, so okay, so these are the symptoms I'm facing. Yes, these are the exact symptoms that Google also tells me. How many of us have relied Google as a doctor and a professional, because a lot of information are available? So I've done it, yes, and it's kind of fun, It's really kind of fun to. Okay, Kathy has said me. Yes, so when we get a little curious, what we do is we Google up things. Google is definitely a great space for information. I can be so proud that Google has helped me pass my exams. Google has also helped me to just get locations and everything. Yeah, see, I've checked out my personality too. Yes, we all have done that. Even I have done. I've checked out my personality type, what kind of things I fall into, and everything like that. So Google and internet, yes, is a definitely sources that we can grab our information and educate ourselves. Even right now, I'm using the internet and technology to communicate this with you all in the virtual world. And definitely in times of COVID, we cannot ignore the fact that we have a virtual system to use as a communication tool. But the sad fact, or the fact that I am very unfortunate to see on these technological platform, is that most of the news, we all know that there are a lot of WhatsApp forwards that come. You send this to 15 people, you'll get luck, you'll get money, and all of these kind of things. We have all come to terms with that. You know what? It's not going to work. Then there was also a time of chain mails. Uh, Yes. So, okay, I'll get back to that. I saw the question by, I mean, the statement by Praveen, but okay. Google definitely is a great source of information. Internet obviously supports it, but to make diagnosis from your perception of what symptoms are, what symptoms you've been facing, especially in psychology, is a very bad choice. Well, you can check to see what disorders are there. You can see what symptoms are there. You can also see what treatments are there. But can you do it as a self diagnosis? No, you cannot do it as a diagnosis, and I'll tell you the reason why. um, I'm okay. Before I get to the reason why, I myself is a psychology graduate, and I've been, like I said, in 6 years into the field. I know quite a little about it. I still have many years to go through, but irrespective of the fact that I know the subject, irrespective of things I use in my clinical practice or in my profession to treat, I cannot self diagnose my, even if I am going through something. And the simple reason of fact is, there are professionals in the field with so much of experience, and they really have good training to be where they are, and they are there in the positions of help for the fact that they have so much of knowledge, experience, and license, and every other thing that comes to defining them as a psychologist, right? You cannot diagnose what you have for the fact that you know a very little while you browse it out, right? Browsing again is knowledgeable, but it's not a diagnostic tool. So it's not like a therapist just sits in her couch and she'll just see if, oh, you're not sleeping well, okay. You're not keeping well, okay. How many days? You're not eating well, okay, you're depressed. No, this is not how therapy works. But when we look at Google, we're just going to see symptom one, tick, symptom two, tick, symptom three, tick. Yes, I'm depressed. Are you depressed? No. You might not be. I'm not saying you are not, but you might not be. What are the chances that you might be? Well, that is exactly the reason why you cannot self diagnose. You need a professional to sit across yourself. You cannot, can you diagnose that you have cancer? No, you cannot do that. You need to take up specific steps to, even if you have if you feel something wrong in your body, you go take up necessary steps, do checkups, take up MRIs, do all the blood and every other test possible, right, to come into conclusion that yes, this is what I have and this is how I need to get it treated. Exactly why you need to go through a thorough analysis, thorough plan, thorough inquiry before coming to a conclusion that instead of checking the list out in each symptom, you need to do it thoroughly with a professional. So that is one of the mistake I've seen people commonly do when it comes to mental health. But when it comes to physical health, we are more open to going and seeing a specialist in the field. But we really need to get ourselves checked by professional help. And coming back to what I was saying, can I get my diagnosis done irrespective of the fact that I'm somebody who's working in the field or who's educated in the field? No, I cannot. The simple fact is, a psychologist is also. I always consider that, and the subject and the profession always considers that when you go to a psychologist, you're going to see a person who does not know you in any way. So usually most of the therapists do not accept patients that they know from their personal relationships. Okay, now that is again a part of most of the licenses that they're not supposed to do that. It is ethically wrong. Yes, I can see a good evening, good, very good evening to you too. So a psychologist is somebody, okay, so they don't see patients who are known to them. So mostly if you have any personal connection with a psychologist, it is a high fact of truth that they will not see you as their patient. One reason, the main reason being is, first of all, they cannot see it, which is ethically not right. The second thing is, they'll not be able to give a treatment that is very effective because their personal relationship will come at some point in therapy, and therapy cannot be conducted in a very good way. Now, so how will you seek a psychologist? You will have to do your research. You will have to make sure that your psychologist knows nothing about you, so that you will also feel safe to communicate better with them. And the therapy is effective. A psychologist is a third person, so they don't know you, they don't know you personally, they don't know who you are, so they only know things and they'll only hear things from your side of the story, which also makes that they can give you explanations. They can be there to facilitate the process of therapy uh, without any conditions. They'll give you unconditional support. They'll give you a safe environment because none of the information that you pass in therapy is let out from the room, which is again comes as a signed agreement mostly. And the therapy gets facilitated with one another in this confidential space. So you will also get to hear a person who is nowhere related in your life as a professional who's helping you out. Most of the time, people go to therapy. Yes, I want solutions. This is my problem, uh, and the therapist does not give you solution, which is again another thing that people believe. You go to therapy, you will get answers. Therapy is, and therapists are not people who give answers. They help you and guide you and give you a better way again to function effectively in whatever roles you are pursuing. So, how much can I self diagnose? Yes, I can see if these are the things I might be going through, and I will not take treatment for myself. So, I will go and meet a therapist who does not know me. So, I will never meet my colleagues or my professors or people who I know, because like I said, therapy functions effectively when you don't know the person. So you cannot treat your relatives, you cannot treat your friends, you cannot treat anybody you know personally, because that will give you a bias in your treatment. That will give we have a set of bias to see, okay, so this person is like this. So when I treat, I might get that bias, right? Because we all are at the end of the day humans. And therapy will obviously not yes, completely agree with that. Okay, therapy will not be functioning, or it will not complete its purpose of getting the success in the treatment that should have been there, right? So that is also why a psychologist cannot treat a psychologist itself. Like, I cannot take self diagnosis, self treatment, and all of this. So I will see someone else who doesn't know me. And I feel like every therapist, every other human, has all the rights to seek professional help, irrespective of the fact that they themselves are therapists and they are somebody in the field. So I was reading this book other day, which I thought I'd share it here. It's by Laurie, and the book's name is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. So she's a therapist, and she describes how she acknowledges patients and how she seeks therapy, irrespective of the fact that she herself is a therapist. So if anybody is interested, can have a read on it. Yeah. Any questions so far? Yes, so Praveen had told me earlier in between the conversation, MBTI questionnaires from internet are used even in some corporates. Well, the problem with using psychological techniques, okay, so these are questionnaires, all these tools, right, that we see, they all have a proper systematic way to be conducted. So these are actual tools that psychologists or professionals in mental health use to come to diagnosis. They use these as techniques for diagnosis, or sometimes even treatment, or activities, and to make their sessions good. Now many of these techniques, or these questionnaires and all of these techniques that we use, there are many interviews which are standardized. All these are standardized techniques, okay? So across the world, or across universally, what comes is the fact that there is a proper method to how this has to be followed, and there is also a proper method to which the analysis of these answers and responses have to be recorded. So these are otherwise used in research purposes also. So yeah, what happens when we are using these questionnaires is we don't really know the proper technique to use this, or we like, I don't feel that I'm not saying every website or everything out there, but certain things that are put on the internet are not conducted considering all the um, ethical consideration that come by to conduct these and to analyze these. So if you do this better with a professional who is more experienced and educated, well, yes, it will have better outcomes. You will also get most of the times, all the techniques that we use in therapy, they are analyzed and they are given to patient for the patient's understanding. And it will also help the therapist to understand the patient better. So it's the purpose of understanding that comes in when it's carried out professionally. So it depends on who is carrying out, is it carried out properly? And the issue is, how ethically right are we doing it on the internet? Is it monitored? Is everything there the way it should? And is it being practiced the way it should? So that's the thing when it comes to when we start using the internet to diagnose us. To the techniques and the tools that we use are misused sometimes. So that's the thing. If anyone has any questions from the topic, please use the live chat to let me know. And then I'll carry on to a very small portion and we will wrap up the session. Any questions? I'm going to wait for 2 or 3 minutes so that anybody can type in and post. Any questions, comments, suggestions? Okay, so I'm going to move on forward. Okay, so the last part and the last bit I wanted to cover. Have you all watched Social Dilemma on Netflix? I'm going to wait for an answer. Do you have any thoughts about the movie? Okay. Okay, so if anyone has watched, do you guys have any thoughts, reflections? Okay, I cannot see any answers, so I'm going to continue forward. Okay, so if you haven't watched, I will definitely recommend that you watch. It is a documentary on the influence of social media on our psychological health. It covers a wide variety of aspects that I'm not going to reveal if you haven't watched. So I'll be just becoming a spoiler here if you haven't watched the documentary. Well, it posts about a lot of cyber psychological perspective of our social media use. So social media use is a very wonderful platform to communicate, spread awareness, and I myself is using something like YouTube to communicate the same. Similar to googling our symptoms, what happens is we read post, we follow certain people on Instagram, otherwise we follow certain pages, we like certain pages on various other social media platforms, then we start believing in forward text by which also comes along with, you know what, this is certified by so and so university, so and so hospital, it is a confirmed news, it is a confirmed thing, and so on. So we get a lot of fake information. We get misinformed about certain things, which I think is also the reason why, irrespective of the fact that mental health and mental illness awareness is spreading along and people are talking about it, since the information is not so validated and we don't have a very systematic way to go check and see if the information spread is right, so we start believing what is there on it, we start accepting, we start seeing the fact that, yeah, so I got this, I read this, so this is what it says. But if that really is, I don't know, I've read it, I've believed it, that has affected our understandings of mental health. So we see things like, you know what, you should start caring for yourself. Self care is mandatory in life. But what really is self care? Do you know what self care is? No, I've seen this post. So this person in media has told me this. I like her, I follow her, so I've seen that person doing. I'm also going to do. Then this is another huge portray of, you know, how journaling can help you. Journaling, so my the person I follow journals, I'm also going to journal. But do I know the proper reason why I'm journaling? No, I don't know. I am believing that her way of self-care is that way, so I am believing that my way of self-care also should be similar, because I'm trying to imitate what she's doing and I feel that's good. So before we do indulge into topics like Am I just following what my follower is doing? Am I So I was also part of this research on in one of my years. It was about how Instagram affects your choices on eating habits. However, the research did not find a statistically significant impact, but we had our reasons to why it was not statistically significant. But the hardcore on the larger literature, what we've seen is, yes, all of these social media platforms somewhere affect our eating habits, our mental health, how much time we commit to our screen time, how much are we scrolling between our sleep. I myself is a victim of scrolling or in between my sleep when I'm disturbed. In between my sleep, I'll go check my phone, which is actually a very bad way of reflection to your psychological, physical, sleep, everything. So there are different impacts to these. So yeah, so we do such practices, social media, we are addicted somewhere. So addiction is another consequence of being engaged in screen for longer hours. We all know that this digital world is inevitable to start living with. But how much are we giving our time? How much are we indulging in these practices are something that we should be consciously aware of. So in my iPhone, we get these weekly statistics showing, what, these many hours you've spent on Instagram, on Facebook. I've seen all these analytics running saying that you've used this much of your time on your phone. So keep a track, keep really a good track of how much are you doing, how, what. So many a times we are unable to define our day. What did I do in my day? I cannot think about anything I did in my day. Um, okay, yes. Digital well-being app on Android. Yes. If I don't really know about the app, but if that app keeps a record of how much time you're spending, yes, you should definitely have a look on that. So back to saying, you should. Yeah. So even when you ask me on some days, what did I do? I cannot think about anything I did today. So keep a track somewhere, at least in your mind. You don't have to write it anywhere, you don't have to say it to anybody else, you don't have to do anything about it. Just be aware of what are you doing with your time. Are you just simply scrolling and you know keeping yourself attached to screens? Are you doing something? How much are you doing about it? How are you doing about it? How good are you keeping yourself well with whatever you're doing? Keep a progress of your daily lifestyle. So what time do you wake up? What are you eating? Just getting a little conscious of the fact and things that you share, what you do, everything, all of this will really help for yourself to have a better awareness about what are you really doing with your time. So when somebody asks you for the next time, what did you do today? You will have a few things at least at the back of your mind to say, you know what, I didn't waste my day. I did this. Another thing that I wanted to cover. So I had got a question uh, from my yesterday's session, that was how do I identify if I'm going through a problem? So conscious awareness will help. If not, um, okay, about yoga and mental health. Okay, I'll answer this and then I'll get back to yoga and mental health. Hmm. Yeah, so yesterday the question I had was, how do I identify if I have a problem to consult professional help, I suppose. So okay, however old you are, you might be in your 20s, you might be in your 30s, I don't know how old you are, whoever is watching this, however old you are, you have a few decades of your life which you have already passed through. And who knows all these years better than you, right? You know every experience that you had to go through. You can remember and you can recollect memories about every experience, every little things. When I ask you what was the first good memory you have of your life, or to name something, you can always reflect back on your memory and name a few things, right? So, similar to that, we all have the best understanding of ourselves. I will say, irrespective of how much a therapist knows, how much your sibling knows, how much your significant relationship knows. Like it could be a mother, father, parents, husband, wife, siblings, friends, companions, anybody, living partners, anybody who knows you, you know the best of yourself. When something goes good, who knows it first? You. When something similarly goes bad, who knows it first? Uh, okay. Shweta, I've received the question. I will answer that. So, the first thing, who knows when something goes best, who knows something goes bad, who knows the first when they are angry, who knows their emotions first. So the moment I know I am angry, I know it first before I put it out on my behavior, before somebody else sees that I am screaming or I am raising my voice. I know it first. Um, Also, I know it when I'm feeling all the other things. That is, when I'm feeling happiness, when I'm feeling guilt, when I'm feeling shame, when I'm feeling loneliness, every other feeling. I know it first, and I'm the best person to be aware of my feelings. I'm the best person who knows my things. I'm the best person who has lived all these years of my life. So the moment something goes down in my life, I will know. I will know it the first before someone else comes and tells me. It's just a matter of fact of acceptance. So it will take years, and especially if you're not trained to believe, or you've been mentored in an environment, in a social environment where mental health is kind of neglected, then it will take time for you to understand that yes, you are going through. But I am sure, and I can guarantee that the moment something goes wrong in your life, you will know it before anybody else, and you will also know uh, when you start denying it, when you start keeping it away, when you start saying, you know what, this is not happening, I'm good, I'm fine, everything's fine. But you know it, you know something somewhere is wrong. That is the moment you know that yes, you're in a problem. And obviously, like I said, certain measures can help, like keeping up track of what you're doing in a day, how are you feeling in a day. So yes, in the digital world there are apps of so many sort, talking about there are so many well-being apps. I'm not really sure of any because I don't use myself, but other ways of being consciously aware is being mindful. So on another day I'll obviously cover a little about mindfulness, and about how you can be consciously aware on your everyday life, and what really mindfulness is. So, yes, keeping a conscious awareness about how you progress in a day, progress in a week, progress in a month, all of this will definitely help you. And sometimes people around you may be the uh, and sometimes people around you might be the reason why you why you realize yes, something might be wrong, because sometimes we need someone else to tell us that, you know what, you might not be accepting it, but we can see it over, and things like that. I hope you all have a safe and at least a set of people around you who can talk, who you can talk to, who you can feel safe with, which is very necessary for all of us to survive. Yeah, so that is another thing I wanted to cover. Oh yes, about yoga and mental health. So there is significant results and research stating that yoga has. So actually, I've had someone in my life who's my very close friend. I hope he gets to one of the live sessions, and we are planning something, but I don't know when it's going to be out. But until then, so I was very skeptical about yoga because I did not for a long time believe, yoga is something that I can do. I know a lot of people find happiness and find themselves keeping well in their physical health. Uh, when they are when they are doing yoga, they find a sense of relief and calmness and things like that, but I was very skeptical about it. So I was having a conversation with this dear friend of mine very recently, and he has convinced me somewhere, you know what, yoga really has research, and conversations with him as has helped me to understand the real impact that yoga creates on mental health. Yoga has in real physical health. It's like I said, since mental health is a biopsychosocial phenomenon altogether. The biological part is what yoga mostly takes into account, which influences the mental health, right? So uh, they focus on certain specific parts in your body which will help you to reflect your thoughts and your certain aspects in your mental health. So I will make sure at one point in one of these sessions this week he comes in, or I otherwise he shoots out something to speak about yoga and mental health a little more, because I am not a very good person to talk about yoga, and my awareness about yoga is very not too much to be spoken about. So that is one thing. And Shweta had asked me, uh, how long does it take for a psychologist to diagnose someone? So the thing about psychology is we don't have well defined answers. Okay, so it depends on person to person, it depends on the way people present problems. So initially it will take you 2 or 3 weeks to get to know the person. See, if I meet you on one day, I meet you for 1 hour, imagine I'm meeting you on the street or somewhere, how much time will it take for me to believe that uh, how much time will it take for me to understand that you are a person who I can trust? It's similar to that in psychology and in therapy. The important relationship base is trust. How much do you trust your therapist? How much do you trust your professional help? So this trust takes time to build, because you're not going to believe or you're not going to trust anybody you see, right? So you have to, as a patient, you need the trust that, you know what, this person will help me to live and function effectively. And the therapist also needs to know that yes, the patient is expecting and is hopeful that he or she will be able to find the therapy effective. So depending on patients, depending on the way they present things, and depending on when the trust happens, depending on how much rapport has been built in the treatment, this will vary. But if you see a point that this is not at all happening, then that means that you will gradually understand that, okay, you know what, the patient is not getting the expected outcome they want, right? So that means that is the time that you should recommend the patient out of therapy. So that is also a counter thing that you do in therapy, that when you see that, you know what, I cannot help this person, and the patient is also feeling that this person cannot help me, that is when you eliminate therapy. That is when you start stopping therapy, and you start accepting the fact that there are times that you cannot help certain people professionally, and even in real life you cannot help everybody possible, right? So when you start accepting all of this in awareness, uh, you start eliminating treatments. So the best is, yes, I can see there's somebody who's constantly asking me questions. I will get back to you since I'm answering someone else. Thank you, Shweta, for interrupting and taking up the hand. So, yes, so you cannot help everybody you meet, whether in person or whether in life. So sometimes, even as a therapist, you might not be able to help all your patients, which is the hardcore fact. And you have to accept, and the patient also will have to move out of therapy. And yeah, the things like that happen. Uh, okay, so I am getting some statements from someone who says, ഓക്കെ വാച്ച് അവർ കിട്ടാൻ വേണ്ടിയാണ് വന്നത്. Okay, this is uh, my mother tongue, Malayalam, and yes, I have a purpose to which I'm conducting sessions. If you feel that I'm doing it for my monetization benefit, and if that is what you feel, I'm very happy, and I will take it very openly that you'll not have to watch this. Neither do I want to keep your time with myself. I have a very good purpose of acknowledging the reason and the objective of every session that I'm taking up here. So, yes, any other questions to psychology or anything that I said over the session, and anything else that I can be of help, and other questions or concerns or suggestions? And yes, I did get, like I said in the starting, I did get an email with a detailed question of yesterday's. I did not answer everything because some sessions are questions from the sessions that I'm yet to cover. So I'll do it over the week. So, any other questions that I can answer, or anything that you want me to cover, or something was not clear? I am going to leave in a 5 minute more so that I'm not keeping anyone here. And yes, is there anything anybody wants to say, or want to convey about the session that I've covered? Please use the live chat. Um, okay, since I do not see anything, so tomorrow's session, like Shweta asked me, what do I do if I okay, missed out the last part because my Wi-Fi got cut. Okay, so what I was saying is, I'm so glad that you liked it, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying the sessions. Um, but okay, in the last part, what I was saying was how, not every therapist can help every patient that he or she sees. Sometimes patients don't find the therapist comfortable. Sometimes the therapist does not feel that he or she can be successful in the treatment that they're providing. So things like this also happen. It's not that every patient walks in, every patient comes, and you know what, I'm going to share my problems. So usually, what happens in a therapeutic room is a very vulnerable position. You're opening up to someone who doesn't know, and you're not opening things that you're very confident about. These are things that disturb you. These are things that don't make you feel good, right? So all these things are things that uh, these are things that these are things that we have to be conscious in our therapeutic session. But if you see that the patient is not benefiting, if you see that you cannot benefit from the session, to what is the purpose? The purpose gets eliminated, and we're just sitting there and wasting time, right? So when this happens, therapeutic elimination happens. We start helping the patient to find better treatments, better options. We may suggest other people. So things like this also happen, because the base of a therapy is the base of therapy is trust, and trust happens over sessions. So there's not a time limit to per se, to say that this is needed uh, for the diagnosis. I can diagnose the patient in these many weeks or these many sessions, because every patient differs, and like we know, no two hands are the same, right? So since there's not a defined or a well defined way to say yes, I can diagnose a person in these many weeks. So it varies across people. So this was a question that was posted, for which I was answering, Kathy. So if that is all, I'm going to end the session. Um, yeah, that is it. So thank you so much. So thank you, Naveen. I'm so glad you were able to connect, and you were able to see it and you found it beneficial. So, yes, I know that there has been a person who's been constantly commenting. We just start ignoring things that we don't have to respond to, right? So, Shweta and other people who are responding, you just leave it. That's all. My objective of further this session is done. And like Shweta's question was about, tomorrow we're going to see about. Uh, Yes, okay, so I can see all the thank yous. So tomorrow we're going to see about what can we do and how can we help someone who we know is going through something. So let's see y'all tomorrow. If you're free, do join in at 5. And in between, if anything comes up, do let me know by the email. It's there on my community tab. I will also leave it on the description once the video gets uploaded. I think it's going to take a lot of time, since yesterday it took me till the morning. So thank you to everybody who joined in and who found the space beneficial. Thank you. Bye bye.